Hello, everybody, and welcome to my video on fighting the Arch Glacor in hard mode on mobile. This is a different type of video than I've done before, namely due to the mobile aspect, and that it's actually a hard mode boss rather than just something easy with cheap gear. So this isn't going to be a beginner's guide. I'm not really going to go over the mechanics of the Arch Glacor or differences of hard mode, normal mode, all that. I really just want to go over what I did to make mobile work for this. A bit of background. Right now, my desktop is just not available to me for a little while, about a month. So really, this guide came out of necessity more than anything. I still want to keep playing RuneScape and bossing. I just don't have a computer for a while, so I kind of just had to figure out how to do it on mobile. A bit of a disclaimer I want to mention right off the bat. I've tried this with, at highest, 300% enrage, or just shy of 300% enrage on the Arch Glacor. And at that point, it did start getting very difficult, actually. After the 250% mark, where a couple things change and a couple of the mechanics get buffed on him, it does become significantly harder on mobile. So I can't really speak to the very high enraged Glacor fights. I know that he goes up to 4,000% enrage, so my personal best, even on PC, is nowhere near that. And I think there might be limitations that mobile has the higher you get. So bear that in mind. This is much better as a maybe 0% enrage to, I don't know, 10, 15 kill streak. By that point, maybe if you try this, you might get used to it and see how it goes. So let's get right into it. The biggest difference, well, one of the many big differences between PC and mobile that you'll see is that your ability bar and the way that you use abilities changes quite a bit. So on mobile, you only have these 10 ability bubbles that you can make pop up. Definitely hide your minimap, hide your inventory, and have these bubbles available to you so you can access them easily. There are a surprising amount of pros or benefits to this kind of layout. It surprised me at least, but there are definitely cons. Namely, that most PVMers that PVM at this level, at least in videos that I've seen, like to have 2 or 3 or 4 or 17 ability bars with hotkeys. You definitely won't have that here. You just have 10 plus your inventory whenever you want to pop that open. And I mean, for me, I typically only use 1 extra ability bar when I PVM anything. I'm just not quite at that stage of PVM yet. So for me, the shift from PC to mobile in that way was not very significant, actually. It's still just the same extra ability bar that I would normally use. I also typically full revolution as much as I can, and I don't, God forbid, full manual or even partially manual. So if you are used to PVMing with full manual or being selective about your abilities, that will be much more difficult here, and you'll just have to make do. So if you are used to that kind of PVM, then your kill times will definitely be slower here. Now, that being said, even for my PVM style, these 10 ability bubbles are definitely not enough to encompass all the abilities and items that you need to fight the Arch Glacor. One thing that might stand out to many of you is that my ability bar is missing vulnerability bombs. Now, depending on the rate and rage of the Glacor, I don't use vulnerability bombs anyways. I don't think they're worth it, or they're just one extra thing I don't want to worry about at low end rages. However, at higher end rages, they're definitely a must. Now, in my bar setup here, the only thing I would remove, maybe to replace with a vulnerability bomb, is Fire Breath, since that's pretty high up on my Revolution rotation anyways. That's mainly for the Glasslight minions, just to help take them out a little bit faster. But I would say that everything else on my bars here, well, it's not bars anymore, they're bubbles, is strictly necessary. So there's anticipation and obviously devotion for the beam cannon, the shield, reflect, and resonance for the beam cannon when you already use devotion. Then there's all 3 protection prayers plus soul split, which take up a lot of space there, and then eating food. With this setup right now, the only thing I need to pop open my inventory for is to drink super restores, to restore prayer. Depending on your setup, you may or may not need to do that. If you really wanted to access more abilities in this, you can pop open the ability menu. That is, it's a little icon just below your prayers. on mobile, and you can set those to either your defensive abilities or whatever you find most useful and access them quickly that way. It is a bit of extra tapping and more stuff to pay attention to, but it can be done, I suppose. Also, one quick note I want to mention, even though I have Soul Split on my ability bubbles here, I'm not using it yet, and I'm sticking to Vampirism because I'm not that comfortable yet, especially on mobile. On desktop, on PC, I do Soul Split Flick at higher end rages because it's necessary, and then you can even get away with the Maniacal Aura for extra damage to speed up your kills, but on mobile, I'm just not that comfortable yet. One important thing I will say is that on mobile, even if you're on a server that's close to you geographically, there is more lag than on PC, so Soul Split Flicking might be difficult, and there are many times where even during the flurry, my prayer switching is cutting it pretty close. So that's one little nuance of mobile, but that's typically not the part that will kill you. The part that will kill you at Arch Glacor is the back-to-back beam cannons, which I found surprisingly easy on mobile. So that leads me to the biggest con that, pro that surprised me. The positive aspect of mobile is that because of the way that the abilities are laid out, this sounds silly, but you have two thumbs to hit little buttons with, ability buttons, versus PC where at least I get lost in keybinds sometimes. PC is very quick if you want to use multiple abilities at once, right? You just keybind, click, and with the combination of those things, you can fire off anything pretty quickly. But I've actually found it more comfortable and easier to maintain and just not get lost in these little ability bubbles. For example, you might notice that I have my equipping shield and resonance on one side, and then I have reflect on the other side. Initially, you might think you'd want to group these things close together, right? So you know that all your backup defensive abilities are there, but I've actually found it easier to equip the shield with my left thumb, right? Hit reflect with my right thumb right away, and then resonance with my other thumb. So some things that have to happen in sequence quickly, ability-wise, are easier if you have two thumbs to work with. So just keep that in mind and play around with it yourself. Not going to lie, there are many times where I crap my pants with the beam cannons back to back. There's one little bit I'll show you right here where I really pushed it, and I actually died. So it's not even a valid point. My defense cape perk saved me, but really that's not due to mobile, guys. That's due to my adrenaline management. I don't want to drag on this video too long, but the last thing I'll say is many of you might notice that I'm not using Sunshine or Ultimates in general, and that's just because my adrenaline management is not quite there yet. I'm not that great at it, so at most I have the Guthix staff special effect in my Essence of Finality, and then I just fire that off whenever I feel like my adrenaline is high for some extra damage. But every time I use Sunshine, I pretty much die if he beam cannons shortly after. I'm also not using adrenaline potions, which is not great, so that's also not a result of this being on mobile and not having enough ability spaces. I just don't use those in generally because I don't want to worry about those yet. And that's about it. That's all I really have to say about doing this on mobile. It's surprisingly easier than expected, especially at lower end rages. At higher end rages, this is doable, and to be honest, my kill times are not very different from those on PC. Again, if you're a much more experienced and high-level PVMer than I am, and you have many, many more abilities hotkeyed than is available on mobile, you will struggle, but it is doable. You'll just sacrifice a bit of your kill speed. Please let me know in the comments if you found this helpful, if you've tried mobile yourself. I just haven't seen very many videos at all, actually. I've seen 0 RuneScape videos on mobile for PVM or anything else. Maybe I'm just not looking specifically for that, but I figured this would be helpful because there aren't very many guys like this. So let me know if you want to see other bosses or really anything else done on mobile. And so with that, I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.